Hallelujah. Glory be to the Lord. Glory be to the Lord. Bless the Lord. I lift the name of the Lord on high because there is no other God like him. He's God everlasting. He's the only wise God. He's God from before time began, from before creation. He's God. The psalmist David says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. When we look at the night, we see the knowledge of God. When you look at the stars, trillions of them in the skies, we see the knowledge of God. When we look throughout the day and we see the beauty of creation, that speaks to us, that sends a clear message to us, and there is no country, there is no language in this world, I think David was trying to say, where their voice is not heard, where the creation does not speak to people in whatever language they speak. Creation does not talk to them and tell them about the goodness and the creativity and the masterpiece created by God Almighty. And so how can I not praise him this morning? This morning I give him the glory, I give him the honor, I lift him up and magnify his name. And I just want to invite somebody to join me. When we praise God, just praise him in your own way, man. Praise him in your own way. Just lift your voice up and let your voice praise him. The heavens declare. What is it to declare? To declare is to make a pronouncement. We are humans and we can't talk it out of our voice. The heavens declare the glory. And if the heavens can declare the glory of God, then what say you and I, human beings? We too can declare God's glory. And this morning I want to tell somebody that he's an amazing God. He's an awesome, wonder-working God. You may be viewing this in the morning, you may be viewing it at night, but we're doing this online series of crusade, and I just want to reach somebody tonight to let you know that no matter what storm clouds may come your way, we have a God, we serve a God who is there to offer guidance and direction. And so I want to talk to somebody about God's GPS. Yes, I want to tell somebody about God's GPS. What do we mean by a GPS? When I looked up the word GPS, I tried to Google it, and when I looked and I did my research, it says Global Positioning System. It's a global positioning system. Now, what do we know about this? We know that, it helps us to find our way. It helps us to find direction. It helps us to know the journey, where you are going and how to get there. And when you think about it, really, people of God, when you think about it, you find that you are more confident when you know where you are going, when you know your way. If somebody says to you, come and meet me at X point, and you don't know the way to go there, you are going tentatively because you don't know what you're going to come upon, you don't know which road to take, you don't know what way to take. But when you know your way, when you know the way that you should take, when you are certain of the direction and you know how to get there, you're not approaching it so hesitantly. Sometimes we're going somewhere, and you have to stop and ask somebody direction. How can I find so and so? In Jamaica, people always laugh at us and say we have a way of giving directions, because somebody will tell you just down the road, or just round the corner, or just over there. So, and you keep on driving or keep on walking and all. No, you can't find it. You can't reach just down the road, and you can't reach just over there, so or just round the corner. It can't stop. It keeps going on and on and on and on and on, endless. So it is said that we're not so good at giving directions. And we don't like to be lost either. We don't like to not know where we are going. People on a whole, not just here in Jamaica, people on a whole like to know. We like to know where we are going. We like to know what is the next move. We like to know. That is just us by nature. We are that kind of person where we want to know, we want to be certain that we are on the right path, that we are on the right track. We want to know. Yes, we want to know. But I want to tell somebody this morning that there's no GPS system like God's GPS system. One of the funny thing is I had a good laugh when I was looking up God's GPS. I was looking up the meaning of GPS. I had a good laugh because I came across 3 stories. One of them of a man where the GPS system directed him up on top of a mountain, and when he got up there, he couldn't go forward and he couldn't go backward. He had to be rescued. And there were 2 others that the GPS system sent them in water. One was of 3 ladies in an SUV. The GPS sent them into water. They had to be pulled out. And another was 3 students trying to get to an island. The GPS sent them into water again. They too had to be rescued. And so that tells us that the GPS system, this GPS system that the world uses, was created by the US Army. And it was created as a fighting tactic. Because when you are in enemy territory, you are in the enemy's camp. Now you gone to a man's country to fight them and you don't know the terrain. You don't know the plane. You need some direction. You need some sort of guidance. And so the US Army, they came up with this Navstar. They created the GPS from it and then they gave it to us here. Everybody in the world have access to it. But it was originally created for the army, the soldiers, to be able to navigate their way around and to find their way around. Because if you go fight war and you don't know where you are going, it's not just to take up the weapons and go fight the war. You have to know where you are going. You have to know your way around. So you go to a man's country to fight war and you are lost in the country. That in itself is going to be a determining factor in your success in the battle. And so they created the GPS system, and here we have it today. But we find that the GPS system created by man, it has its flaws. I told you about 3 scenarios a while ago. 2, it led the people in water. 1, it led the man up a mountain. So, but people put their faith in it. People put their confidence in it. Those 3 incidents and others like those have not stopped people from using GPS. People use it. They continue to use it. And if man is going to trust in something created by man so confidently, I invite you to trust in God's GPS. Because God's GPS, when God positions you on the globe, you are well positioned. When God positions you on the globe, there's no way you are going to get lost. You're going to go off track, yes. And if you go off track, I shouldn't say you're going to go off track. I should say if you go off track, it is your doing and not God's doing. Because when God puts in his direction for your life, that map work, that detailed map work that he sets out, when he puts it in, it is only for you to walk therein. Remember when he took the children of Israel out of Egypt, he set them down and he sent Moses to talk to them, and he said, show them this, tell them if they walk this route and if they obey me and if they do what I tell them to do, the blessings, these are the blessings that will follow them. He set the GPS down. He said, tell them if they walk this way and if they walk line upon line, precept upon precept, if they go this direction, if they don't serve any other God, if they follow me and love me with all their heart, then blessing upon blessing will follow them. But the contrary is also true. Tell them, if they choose to go in the opposite direction, this I will cause their enemies to overtake them, and I will destroy them and cause them to come to naught. In a sense, that is what he was saying to them. He was setting two paths before them. Now, when you contrast that with a GPS created by man, man's GPS don't give you two choices. It only give you one. You set the course upon it. You go in your vehicle and you put on the course upon it. I want to move from point A to point B. And it don't give you two choices. Well, it might give you several roads that you can take. It might give you several roads, several routes that you can take. But those routes are not definitive. They are not clearly defined. And so that is why you find some people end up, even though they are using the GPS, they end up getting lost. But God's GPS was clearly defined to Israel. God said to Israel, this is what I want you to do. You can take route A, and route A will take you to the promised land, or you can take route B. Route B will cause me to destroy you. God sets before each and every one of us a GPS. And it is up to us to allow Him to position us where He wants us to go. Because when we allow Him to lead us, we are well directed. I think of somebody who was globally positioned. And when you talk about how can you talk about God's GPS and not talk about a man like Joseph? You can't talk about Israel and not talk about Joseph. When you talk about Joseph's life story, Joseph's story clearly indicates to us that when we allow God to order our steps, the songwriter said, order my steps in your word, Lord. When we allow God, to order our steps, we are well directed. We are well guided. A lot of us, we don't allow God to order our steps. We don't allow God to direct us. What we do, we create the route. We create the destination. And we put down the outline and the map work, and we take it to God and say, God, this is the plan. I want you to sanction it. I want you to bless it. But that's not how it works. He wants us to allow Him to guide us, to show Him that we trust Him fully and completely, and we are dependent on Him, that it is on Him only that we depend, and in Him only we put our trust. In Him only, when He knows that we don't have any other choice, no other course of action. Lord, I'm putting my trust in you. Lord, I'm depending on you. Joseph got to a point when Joseph found himself in Egypt. I want to share with you before I continue. Turn your Bibles with me to Genesis chapter 39. And I think we should pause to read that chapter and look carefully at how God positioned Joseph on the globe. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. He was globally positioned. He was positioned on the globe. Not necessarily using lines of longitude nor latitude, to tell where you are, your grid address. He was positioned on the globe by God. And if you follow his story, if you read the further chapters above 39 that talks about his story from his birth and how his father loved him above his brothers and how he got down into Egypt, you can understand what I mean. So Genesis chapter 39 tells us, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put in his hand. And it came to pass, from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favored. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whosoever and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Now, when we talk about God's GPS, God's global positioning system, what better person to give us a clear image of it than Joseph? What better person to help us to understand the way it works than Joseph? But I want to show you, it's not that God just created the path and Joseph walked right into it. There were obstacles along the way. Obstacles that came from sources that you weren't expecting. Unexpected sources. There was first the obstacle that came from his brothers, because God had indicated to him from early through dreams and visions that he would be the head and not the tail. But they didn't like that. They never liked that at all. God indicated to Joseph, I'm going to put you on a clear path. And so Joseph ended up being sold. But there was a glimmer of hope. There was a glimmer of sunshine when he got down there in that strange land. He could have gone into bondage right away when he ended up in Egypt, you know. But God created Potiphar. God put Potiphar. You see, sometimes God positions some people. God put some people in some position to receive you. When He's going to send you on a path, it is certain that there are going to be persons to receive you when you get to the point where He wants you to go. And so when Joseph got to Egypt, there was Potiphar, almost like somebody at the airport waiting for him. You know, you go to the airport and there are people with these cards with your name on it, especially when you're traveling to a place you've never been to before, or somebody, you're going somewhere that you don't know where you're going. And somebody is there with a card waiting with your name on it. There was Potiphar waiting for Joseph. And he took Joseph in. And Joseph had privilege. He had privilege. He was put into a privileged position. But as I said, there are obstacles. Sometimes some people are put there to test and to see if you have any integrity. And so the obstacles were placed in front of Joseph. And one such obstacle was Potiphar's wife. And we know the story how he ended up in prison. I can well imagine when he got there and was in prison. Let's use our imagination for a moment. He must have thought, you know, if he's anything like me, he must have thought, God, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? Why did I end up here? How come I end up here? So you show me where I go wrong. Show me what I do wrong. So next time I walk in that place, I don't take that route, or I don't take that journey, or I don't make that mistake again. He must have had a conversation with God. We don't hear of the conversation. The Bible does not tell us of the conversation, but I can well imagine that he must have had that gripping conversation with God when he ended up in prison. Imagine this morning you were living your life very good, all well and dandy, wake up to nice bright sunshine, ready to go tell your brothers another dream, but you end up being bound, thrown in a pit, being sold by the people you love. Hey, the people you love, you know, the people who are supposed to love you, who are supposed to be your main support system, those people are the ones who bound him. Those who should have had his back bound him and sold him off. They bound him and sold him off, and then now he ends up getting a little position of authority. So him feel, okay, at least I'm away from my father's land, but things not so bad. Things not so bad. At least I am kind of comfortable. I'm okay. Because he's in Potiphar's house. A house, oh, me have privilege. And things are going good. And then there's this avalanche. Him end up in prison again. He ends up in prison. I shouldn't say again. Well, I say again because when he's thrown in the pit, that's another prison. When he's sold, that's another prison. Him gone again in a 1/3 type of prison this time. But I want to show you something. You see, when God is with you, and when God is positioning you globally, using his GPS, when you are being guided by God's GPS, whether you are down in the pit, whether you are bound and gagged, or your hands tied behind you, or you are loose and free walking up and down, he's going to be with you. Verse 21 of Genesis 39 say, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. When you go on God's GPS, God can use his global positioning system to use you to save others. And that is the story of Joseph. God positioned Joseph and used him to save other people because God did it in the sight of the keeper of the prison. God did it in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Now imagine you're a prison guard. You're a keeper of a prison. All these men, some of them innocent, some guilty, some just thrown in there because king not like them. And you're responsible for keeping them. But here comes this one. You don't know about his God. You don't know. You've never heard about his God. But here comes this one. And he comes with a difference. And you begin to see the favor of God on him. And you begin to think, boy, something is different about this one. This one don't come like all the rest, man. There's something different about this one. You know, God showed Joseph favor in that prison for a purpose. It wasn't just to save him alone. It wasn't just all about Joseph, because when God is using his GPS on you, you know, when God is using his GPS on you, it's not always all about you. It's not always all about you. And sometimes we're following the GPS and we're thinking, okay, it's all about me to get to my destination. No. Sometimes you may not even see it. You may not even know it. But sometimes God is using his GPS on you to help somebody else who you don't even know, so that person is looking on. You don't even know that that person is watching. But God wants to reach that person. And so when he uses his GPS, I know sometimes, you know, we are just a means to an end. We are just a vessel. But he has a greater good working out. Some prison keeper today, some keeper of the prison today wants to be reached. Yes, we know about the baker. We know about the butcher. We know about the baker. And we hear the interpretation Joseph goes on to give them of their dreams. But there's one person who is often neglected in the telling of this story. And that person is the keeper of the prison in verse 21 of Genesis chapter 39. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And it is significant that we pay attention to that. This prison keeper, he's not named. We don't know his name here. It's not mentioned here in chapter 39. Not sure if we'll find if it's mentioned anywhere else. I've never seen it. I'm not saying it's never mentioned, but here is this prison keeper. He's barely a character in the story, because if you're reading the story fast, you're going to miss him. You're reading the story fast and you want to come to the end, you're going to miss the prison keeper. But pause for a moment and pay attention. God wanted to minister in the life of this prison keeper. God wanted to meet a need in the life of this prison keeper. Are you a keeper of a prison today? Are you in a position of authority? Because this prison keeper was somebody of worth, you know. Somebody who had authority. They're not just going to take up any and anybody and give to say, okay, go keep the prison. The prison keeper had all the keys. He had all the keys. And I tell you, if there was a breakout, his neck is going to go on the block. Anybody break out of that prison and go missing, you know. We remember the story in Paul in the New Testament when the angel came after the church prayed and the prison doors flew open and the prisoners came out. And you saw what the prison keeper was about to do? He drew his sword and he was about to take his life. But Paul quickly shouted out to him and said, look here, don't do yourself no harm. We are all here. We're not gone away. We know the seriousness that this can cause. We know that this can be very dangerous and complicated. So no worry, harm yourself, no hurt yourself. We are all here. We are men of conscience. And we value your life. We value the life of the prison keeper. So you are the one who they give the keys to keep the... Oh, they're all in prison. We throw them in prison. They're all in prison. And you get the keys to keep the prison. You must ensure that the gates are locked. But God is sending somebody right here tonight to tell you, look, even though you are the prison keeper, even though you are the person in charge, there is a bigger man upstairs who is keeping the prison. There is somebody who is above you. And I'm not talking about the king. I'm not talking about the ruler of the land. There's somebody higher than him. He gets authority from this higher figure. And so wherever you are tonight, whatever prison you have been placed in charge of, whatever position of authority you have been given, whatever keys have been placed in your hands, remember that God is using his global positioning system. He's using his GPS to bring somebody to show you a way out. And that way you are going to see miracles occurring before your very eyes. You are going to see things that are unheard of. They are not humanly possible. The only explanation for them is God. God and God himself. And verse 22. Look at verse 22. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. Verse 23. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. You notice the last 3 verses of chapter 39 of Genesis is focused on the keeper of the prison. The keeper of the prison. Are you a prison keeper? Is God positioning you globally? He has positioned you. You know, some persons, they are put in a position for a reason. Remember Esther, when Mordecai said to her, girl, don't think you're pretty. God set you up in that place because you're beautiful. No. Him say you are put in a place like this for such a time as this. God has put you in this position for a reason. The keeper of the prison, you are given this authority to be the prison keeper. You could have chosen anybody else. But you are the one who is given the keys to the prison. You are given the keys. What do the keys mean? The keys mean freedom. Freedom for somebody. Oh my God, you have the keys that can release somebody from their prison. You have the keys that can set people free, that can let them go. You have been put in that position for a reason. You have been put in that position for a purpose. It's not just because you look good. It's not just because you are rich or you have a name, a family name. It's because God has positioned you globally for this purpose. You are put in that position for such a time as this. God has positioned you as the keeper of the prison. And I want to tell you, the keeper of the prison took action when he saw what God did. Notice he took action. He never just go sit down and say, okay, let me just watch this like a TV show. He took action. He left everything. He said, here's what I'm going to do. You see, since me, sissy, I gotta work, me I go leave everything in this man's hand. Because it's hard for me to kick against the pricks. That is what God told Saul when he was on his way down to Damascus. God said, Saul, it is hard for you to kick against the pricks. Do not try to go against God. When you see God working, don't try to stop him. So the keeper of the prison realized. The keeper of the prison realized that God was at work. And so what he did, he said, Joseph, here's the thing what me I go do. Me I left everything in your hand. Me I leave you in charge. Anything you want to do. Anything you want to do. Me not put no no timeline on you. Me not giving you no schedule. Me not give you no order of service where you must follow. I'm leaving it in your hand entirely because me say God, I use you. Joseph, even though we are in prison, we are not free. We're not in the outer world. We are in prison in here, so. But God is going to create an atmosphere inside here. Huh? God is going to create an atmosphere inside the prison, man. And persons' lives are going to be saved. When I'm through with you, Joseph, lives are going to be saved. And so the prison keeper played a pivotal role in executing God's GPS in Joseph's life. The prison keeper, he didn't just say, okay, I am in charge and I am large, and is what I say go. And he didn't try to shut Joseph down. A lot of people try to shut down people when God using them. They try to shut. No, he didn't try to shut down Joseph. Him said, Joseph, listen me, man. Me sister, God, I use you. And me neither go look to the left nor to the right. Whatever you do, may I give you privilege, may I give you power, may I give you authority in here, so. Out there, so, the king have law in here, so, and me have law. And God is directing me, the prison keeper, to allow you to have autonomy in here. So you must have freedom for operating here. And so we find that God used his GPS. God used his GPS through that prison keeper, that even though Joseph was in prison, man, even though he was locked away, he was shut up, never had the freedom to go about, God used this prison keeper to send some form of deliverance to him. Are you a prison keeper tonight? What prison are you in charge of? What prisoners have you been set over? What innocent prisoners have been put under your care? Who do you have under lockdown? And you see the power of God working in their lives. You see God using his GPS in that person's life. Tonight, I invite you to allow God to operate in your life using his GPS. So no matter what the situation is, he's going to deliver you. I invite you tonight to allow God, like this prison keeper did, to allow God to just take full charge of your life. God bless you. As we remember that even in prison, God can use his GPS through the prison keeper. God bless you.